Today, we're going to talk about the 4 steps you need to take to transform out of a negative space. The 4 steps you need to take. And step number one is observe. You see, existing in a negative space, whether it's mindsets, emotions, or your physical environment, existing in a negative space could be the very thing that's limiting you in your life, that's holding you back from your potential, right? And see, that's the common goal we all share, regardless of who you are, where you live, how old you are, or what stage of life you're in. We all want to live our life to its full potential. None of us want to live an incomplete life, right? And what I mean by incomplete is a life that we don't feel fulfilled by. Mm, a life that we don't feel fulfilled by. And one thing I can guarantee is that if you continue to exist in a negative space, you will continue to feel unfulfilled, right? But see, the big question is why? Why is it important to be observant? In what ways will this help me transform out of a negative space? And before I answer that, I don't think it's only fair that we're on the same page about what it means to be observant, right? So let's make sure we're speaking the same language. The textbook definition for observe is to see, watch, perceive, or notice. To regard with attention, especially so as to see or to learn something. To watch, view, or note for a scientific, official, or other special purpose. Now, if I asked you to define the word observe in your own words, I'm confident that you will say something along the lines of being aware of your surroundings, right? Comment below if that's the definition you were thinking about. And if so, you're not wrong, right? To observe is to be aware of your surroundings. But at the same time, it's also about observing, noticing, and paying attention to your emotions and your thoughts, which are often overlooked, right? There's a popular saying that goes, before you can understand where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. Before you can understand where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. And I say that because before you can understand where you're going in regards to transforming out of this negative space, you have to first understand, you have to first know what's keeping you trapped in this negative space to begin with. Are there certain emotions that you're battling or thoughts that you're thinking? Or maybe you're surrounded by certain people that you shouldn't be, right? See, whenever anyone talks about transforming their life or changing their life, it's common to want to take the easy route when doing this. Let me go ahead and declutter my home and buy a new wardrobe, or unfriend a couple of people on Facebook, dye my hair, and change my at name. Now, I'm saying this lightheartedly because these are fairly easy things to do. Now, they can help to an extent, but when talking about transforming out of a negative space, it's important to remember that your emotions and your mindset are just as important as your physical environment, right? Which is why we have to make sure that we're being observant, that we're noticing and paying attention to the feelings we feel, the emotions we feel, and the thoughts we're thinking. Step two in this process is accept. Okay. As humans, naturally, we try to avoid anything negative, right? I think it's coded in our DNA that way. At least for some of us, it is, because I know there are some people out there who are just negative in general, but the majority of us do, for the most part, try to avoid anything negative. However, you have to accept that you're in a negative space first before you try to transform out of it. Now, you're probably wondering, what does acceptance have to do with transforming out of a negative space? And that's a good question, right? And I want to go there for a second. Now, to keep this simple, it all goes back to the idea of before you can understand where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. Now, since I'm a big fan of metaphors, here's one that I'm certain you can relate to. Picture yourself driving, right? Driving your car, your truck, whatever you have. Picture yourself driving. Now, the goal of driving is to get to your destination, point B, right? Or where you're going. However, you have to know where you're coming from. You have to know point A. You have to know where you're starting from in order to get the proper directions to help you get to point B, right? Otherwise, you'll be driving in circles, thinking you're getting close to your destination, but you're not because you have no idea where you're coming from or where you're starting at, right? I mean, do I turn left here? Do I turn right there? Do I keep going straight? If so, for how long? Or do I turn around and go back in the opposite direction? There's no way of knowing that if you don't know where you're starting from. See, acceptance helps you comprehend where you're coming from. Acceptance gives you a starting point. It helps you figure out the proper directions that will guide you to where you want to go. Now, here's something I want you to remember. Lean in for a second. Just because you accept something as your reality right now doesn't mean it has to stay your reality forever. Let me repeat that for the people in the back, right? Just because you accept something as your reality right now doesn't mean it has to stay your reality forever. Ponder on that for a second. All right, let's keep this train moving. Step three in the process is release. Now, there are a few different ways that we can approach releasing depending on the negative space you want to transform out of. And let's say, for example, that your negative space is in regards to your physical environment. Well, in this case, the best way to release is through decluttering. And I've talked about decluttering in so many ways in various conversations before. And it's because decluttering is such a powerful tool. Now, decluttering is about more than just the clothes in your closet and the knickknacks on your bookshelf. It's also about decluttering those negative and toxic relationships in your life. Anything or anyone that is taking up space in your physical environment that is making you feel trapped in that negative space, you want to go ahead and declutter and release those items from your life. Maybe that's donating them, maybe that's selling them, maybe that's throwing them away, maybe that's unfriending them on Facebook, blocking their phone number, whatever you have to do to release that negative energy, those negative people, those negative things that are making you feel trapped in this negative space, do that. Now, let's say your negative space is more so about your emotions and your mindset. Where here, the best way to release is through conversation. And this can be conversations with yourself. And the best way to do that is through journaling. You can do something called morning pages. So every morning, before you do anything else, just grab a notebook and write down how you feel, the emotions you're feeling, the things you're thinking about, your plans for the day, and use that journaling as a way to release those emotions. Now, for me, I did this with poetry. If you're more creative with your writing, try poetry as well. Now, if you want to go the other route, it's important to have conversations with people that are professionals or people that you trust. Sometimes writing can be can create more of a block than more of a release, depending on you, right? For me, it helped me release, but for some people, writing can create more of a block. And in that case, you want to have conversations with people, professionals and people you trust. You want to open up. You want to start to vent. You just want to allow those emotions, those thoughts to just flow outward through your mouth to someone you trust that can help you work through those thoughts, that can help you work through those emotions. So again, if it's about your physical environment, declutter. If it's about your emotions and your mindset, have conversations, either with yourself through journaling or with a professional and someone you trust. All right. Step four is transform. Now, the word transform has a very particular meaning here. And what I mean by transform is the continuance of steps one through three: observe, accept, and release. See, transforming your life, changing your life for the better doesn't happen the first time you do something. I don't care what anyone tells you, it's a lie, right? Change doesn't happen overnight. However, change or transformation happens over time, right? With the continued effort. So every time you observe why you're in a negative space, every time you accept that as your reality right now, but not your reality forever, and every time you release what is keeping you trapped in a negative space, those steps are compounding over time, right? And transforming your life little by little until eventually you'll look at yourself and be like, wow, that negative space that I was once trapped in, I'm no longer in that space. And it feels amazing, right? And trust me, it feels amazing. So, as a quick recap, step one is observe. Why are you in this negative space? Step two is accept. Accept this as your reality right now, but not your reality forever. Step three is release. Let go. What is keeping you trapped in a negative space? Declutter it. Have conversations. Get rid of it, right? And step four is transform. Continue this process until your life changes for the better. Keep growing in your journey, my friend. Keep learning. And always remember to stay true to you. Because guess what? I'm always staying true to me. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.